Welcome everyone to interview number 29 of OSA Improvement Month. Today with Monk Yatso, also known as Monk the Dawn, also known as Amani, which
Yep.
is your first name, but yes, hello, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, dude? Glad to be here. Yeah, you can just call me Monk or Amani. Anything's fine. I like having the different names where it's like as people get to know you a bit more, they feel a bit more comfortable calling you by your first name, and that's just something that's, you know, it's just an honor to have, I guess.
Let's go. So, just in case people aren't familiar with you, could you give a brief introduction to who you are as a player and what people probably recognize you for?
Yeah, right. So I'm an Australian player first and foremost. I've been playing since about 2017. 2017, 16, 2015. Started out Oceania. Kind of plateaued at around rank 2000 there. But then I went over to Standard and yeah, really most people know me for my Air 11 and I guess old DT nowadays. Played OWC once. Um, and I've been playing multiple tournaments since about 2020, 2019. I've been big in the tournament scene and yeah, also casting OWC. So I've been around the block, know a lot about OSU and what it's got to give, and yeah, just happy to be here.
Dang, that is crazy. So, I'm curious if you can actually first. I'm curious because I've always wondered what exactly does gyatso mean. What is monk gyatso? What exactly is
So
that?
Monk Gyatso is a character in Avatar: The Last Airbender. He's the dude who taught the main character Aang, the little dude with the arrow on his head. He's the one who taught him how to airbend, and that's just his name. So all the OG Avatar fans would absolutely know who he is. But yeah, kind of just stuck with that name, and it kind of stuck because I get it uncontested a lot in a lot of games, and now it's kind of my thing. As soon as a new game comes out, I'll try to rip the name, and that's how it started.
Let's go. And then I think the next natural question before we talk about actual game related stuff is your name change, Monk the Dawn. What is that?
Oh yeah. So around right before OWC, I was kind of looking at changing my names, like what would be a cool name for OWC, and then I was looking at like Monk the Goat or like all these sort of like you know um titles that you give people, and I was just like the Don. Like there's no Don of Osu. All I could think of is Wolf, like what Wolf. Like if I was gonna give someone the Don title, it'd be Wolf, but I was like, yeah, Monk the Don. It kind of flowed way too nice, and I kind of settled with it. Now I'm in love with it, and it's just how I am.
So what is a Dawn? Is that just like a goat basically?
Don's. I just think of the Don as like some sort of old mafia boss that like intimidating, but also the Godfather sort of trope. So I kind of just flow with that.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Was it supposed to be like a collab with Jordan the Bear?
Absolutely. No, definitely not a collab with Jordan the Bear, but the in the name kind of flows nice. Um, but no, not really a collab name. It kind of works out because I think Jordan the Bear is such a like a funny name. Like it's very childish in a sense, but like the Don is very like very intimidating, very mature. But yeah, I guess you could call it a collab if you want.
It's like
But no, that wasn't the intention.
okay, interesting. Because I always like I assumed it was like it's inspired at least.
Yeah, maybe there's some subliminal inspiration from Jordan, but no, the Don kind of like just flows right. I didn't know whether to call myself like Gyatso the Don, but most people called me Monk. Actually, was kind of I liked being called Gyatso more because you already had Monko in the scene, and it was like you call Monko Monk, you call me Monk. It's like it was a bit awkward, so
Oh, I see.
I didn't like Gyatso the Don or Gyatso anything. It just didn't feel right. So yeah, Monk the Don's kind of where I
I
kind of
see.
just easy that way.
Yeah, you know those like mobile game ads where it's like level 1, like level 10 mafia? It's like
Yep.
I'm looking at
Yeah.
Jordan the Bear versus Monk the Dawn. The way you described it, I sort of thought of it that way.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Nah, those ads are so good though. I do love them.
So, can you walk us through sort of your early days with Osu? What sort of stuff did you play? What got you first discovering the game and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I first discovered the game would have been grade 12, high school, which is about 8 years ago for me now. But I discovered the game. A friend had. I used to play Tap Tap Revenge all the time. That little iPhone. I don't know if people know it, but it's like an old iPhone iPod Touch game where you just basically it's Oceania but touchscreen.
Oh,
And I never had a phone at school, and I always played on my friend's phone, and I was always like I didn't get to play it a lot. So when I'd borrow my friend's phone or their iPod Touch back in the day. This is iPhone one generation. This is OG stuff. And I'd just ask, and I'd be like, they'd let me play. And since I didn't have a lot of time to play it, when I did play it, I'd take it really serious, and I was the best one at it. And then one of my Asian friends had actually told me about this game called Osu, and I only played Osu Mania, and that's where I started in about 2014, 2015. It was all Osu Mania, um, and then I had no internet during 2015, 2016. My internet situation was very shady. Sometimes I'd have internet for like only a week, and then no internet for 2 months.
oh my
Um,
God.
exactly right. And at the time, I was really high rank in League of Legends, and I was yeah, I was doing a little stuff on the side on League, and um, whenever my internet would go out, I had no game to play, so I just played Osu, and that was um, after I didn't feel right playing Mania. I only liked playing Mania for the ranked maps, and since I couldn't play rank because I had no internet, I was like, well, I may as well try some of the other game modes, and that's when Osu Standard started. And how it goes with OSU standard is once you hit a certain point of that game, it just sucks you in and you can only play it. And I hit that stride, and every single time my internet went out, I'd just play OSU, um, and improve in that. And so, really, for me getting into it, it was actually by chance. I just only played offline, and it was my go-to game when I had no internet because my main game was League at the time. And then yeah, after I fell in love with Standard, I sort of couldn't go back to Mania, and I really came out as a when my internet started coming back, I'd play a lot of. I saw the country rankings and the global rankings and stuff like that, and I really just tried to get country one on as many maps as I could. And at that time, a lot of the maps, like 5-star no mod maps, I could just put hidden on, and I'd get country one. And so that's what I'd do, and that's how I kind of improved a lot of, or how I started really. Was just yeah playing for country ones.
Interesting. So once you started grinding offline a little bit, you picked up some skills a little bit. So I assume by the time you started playing online, you were mostly at the point of like 3-star, 4-star type maps.
Yeah, so when I'd start playing online, yeah, it'd be 3-star, 4-star hard diffs, mainly. If I go like how I really got into it, like the timeline, it was like playing 3-star, 4-star maps. Um, playing, I started playing online, and the first thing I'd do when the first thing I'd always do at the start of any OSU session when I had internet, this is after now I've got internet, I'm playing 3 to 4-star maps. I could maybe pass a 5-star map. I'd look at whoever was above me in ranking, and I would just take all their top plays. I would just look at what they could do and be like, oh, if he could do it, I could do it, and then I'd do it, and that sort of worked all the way up until about like rank 20,000, and then I started realizing, damn, there's a separation in players. At this time, you had a no mod player, or you had a hard rock player. But for me, I was just like a hidden player, so it was just like you know, uh, do some of the no mod player maps with hidden. But I couldn't do any streams, and if a player above me had streams in their top plays, I was doomed. I couldn't do a single one. I would just go next. Like I'd play their top player, be like, oh yeah, cool, I can do it, and then a stream would come in, and I'd be like, oh fuck, I can't do it at all. So yeah, I had to learn to adapt, and then I got to about rank 20,000 before I met who, and this is probably one of my biggest tips for improving is finding people around your rank and finding friends as well because they push you to that next limit. As far as it goes for me, it was like I was very competitive in that regard, and I found someone called Ye, who was a huge influence to my improvement. He told me about Tillerino, and I would have been about ranked 20,000 before I knew that DT gave extra PP or what Tillerino was, and after that that was a wrap. After I realized DT gave extra ranking, and you could just play DT on hard diffs and get the same PP as a 5-star no mod. It was the obvious choice for me.
Dang, that's crazy. So around what time was that you were ranked 20K?
Yeah, around 20k, 17k. And then after I found Tillerino, it was a wrap. I just speed ran all the way to about 4 digit. Probably got to around rank 6,000 before I met my next like good friend in Grandy Senpai, who would push me to that that next level, that 3-digit level. I had a lot of influences on the way, but really meeting these people was a big reason for my improvement. Grant had told me that I was playing on an 800, 600 resolution when I was playing standard that whole way through. I was playing on a area that was more vertical than horizontal, so it just made no sense at all. I wasn't playing full screen, and after I met him, it was like that's where the change really unleashed. Like I was playing with a handicap my whole way up, so once I sorted that out, it was a wrap, and I got to about you know that's when I got 3-digit, and then I'd meet other players, and then they would push me to my peak rank at like 130.
So, how did your tablet settings end up that way and your resolution and everything? What's the story there?
Yeah, so I first got my tablet at about when I was ranked like 80,000. Back when I'm still playing 3 4 star maps. I remember I think my first FC was Cold Green Eyes with the tablet, the no mod map. And yeah, I got a tablet and I just never fiddled with the settings too much. And I swear I can't remember exactly how I had it, but I had about it would have been about 40 to 50 millimeters. And it was it was higher up than it was longer. So it was literally like an opposite rectangle, like the wrong side. And I don't know, it just worked. Like I just got used to that, and I tell you right now, swapping off it to the force proportion default rectangle that everyone else uses, I was useless for about a month. I couldn't play the game properly. It was the most infuriating, frustrating grind, but I got through it in the end, and it paid off. So
Do you feel like you were really like actually limited with those, like, even though you were used to it at the time, like, do you feel like it was really worth it to switch
I
to the
look
more
back.
conventional settings?
Yeah, I look back, I'd say that one is probably it makes sense, right? At the time for me it was just like I never even thought that that sort of thing mattered. It was just like, oh, it's a tablet, you can aim easier than a mouse, so it's good. It didn't matter what the area was, I didn't care about the settings. It was just what I just used what I had. And now as I look back at it, I tend to think more so that the best thing for you, what if what you're doing is working, keep doing it and don't stop until don't stop. Just keep doing whatever's working. And for me, it was working. I was improving all the time. Um, but I realized I always thought the higher ranked players, whatever they said, was like guaranteed. Like if someone higher ranked than you is saying this and telling you to do this, you have to do it because they're higher ranked. They know more than you. So that's kind of why I changed my whole setup. Grand Senpai at the time was a much higher ranked than me, and it was like, yeah, he's telling me I'm trolling with my tablet. I'm trolling with my tablet. But looking back at it now, I honestly, I don't know if it's better because I got way better in the end. I didn't plateau from rank. I was still improving no matter what I did. It was just because I was a lot better than my rank at the time. But I'd say in that regard, having an upside down rectangle is probably not right. But other things like other habits, you may as well, if you're improving with it, you should stick with it. But the tablet area one, it was like, I don't know about that. I still like conflict whether that was the right thing to do or not. Because having one area your whole OC session, like I think Jordan, he's only had one area his whole life, so it worked out for him. His aim's really good, so
All right.
yeah, I'm not sure. It's a bit hard to say.
And the other thing is probably your resolution. Were you playing windowed mode or what was going on there?
Yes, I was playing. There's like a letterbox mode, or like a where the thing around's black,
Yeah.
like you got black boxes. And I was playing, yeah, it was 800, 600, or 1024, 768. It was always those two reses. Because when I played Mania, you didn't need the whole screen. For
Oh,
Mania, I
okay.
played Mania in a small windowed mode. I thought Osu was the same. It was like, hey, there's less, less distance I have to travel. It just made sense to play the game on a small res. It felt like I was cheating. Like every time I was like, oh, I'm just cheating because I'm not playing this full screen thing, and I had a really small area too. So um, yeah, but I got used to it, and honestly, I think part of the reason I improved so much when I played full screen was I was used to reading. I got really good at reading because you're able to focus on every single note when you're playing at such a small res. You don't have to strain your eyes so much. And then when I went to full screen, was probably one of my biggest skill increases. That was when I was able to go from like, that was when I was able to break into 3-digit. It was like 1600 to like 800 in that, it felt like that was another chain being unleashed and it just pushed me forward. It always felt like I was playing on really bad settings or really bad something, and then I'd learn something revolutionary about the game, and that would just give me a huge skill boost, and it just kept working like that. Until I got to a a refined state, and that was just that's where I stagnated and would have to do you know the more traditional ways of improving, like actually you know actively going out to improve.
So it sounds like for a long time, the way that you sort of pushed yourself was just kind of looking for new top plays and sniping like top plays of the people around your rank.
Mm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
aside from that, sort of having meeting friends that can sort of keep pushing you in the right direction.
Yeah, I think I always looked at the people around me as like sort of rivals, and I'd always find someone. When I was climbing really fast, no one. I was, Australia's a really small country. It was really easy to track our top 50 because our number one to number 50 would be like, rank. I think it would have been like rank 100 to like rank 8,000. Like it was a very, there's not a lot of high rank players in the country, so it was really easy to track a lot of players. And keep track of it. And I remember as I was coming up in the rank, no one would overtake me if I overtook them, except for three players, and those were Vivaci, Kevin,
Yeah.
Ceiling Waffle, Kano, and Grand. I didn't. No one else that I overtook me back. But so yeah, we had a really close community at the time too, and it was always like this constant grind. It was like everyone was improving at the same time, and you just did not want to get caught left behind. Um, but yeah, the biggest thing for me was just mastering what I was good at, and what I was good at was enough to keep competitive in the rankings, and I just kept with it, stuck with it.
Dang. So you started out basically playing pretty much only hidden only, or were you
Oh
playing
yeah.
Nomad for some time?
No, so when I started playing, and this is my biggest advice, I wish every player would do it. If you just leave hidden on for a week, like which I did at the when I was really really new at the game, about like deep 5 digits. If you play hidden for a week and you just play hidden for a week. Don't focus on anything else other than just playing the mod. For me, I was doing it because I wanted to get the country ranking number one, and so it just worked intuitively. But if you use hidden for a week, like that skill will last you forever. Like once you learn hidden, it doesn't go away. At least for me, speaking, I don't, a lot of people I know is the same thing. If they learned hidden early on, they never had to train it because apparently that gets a lot harder as you get better. Um, or it's just like it's a lot harder to pick up the better you get. But the earlier you start, the better. And yeah, so I was just a hidden player. I'd play 5-star hiddens, and then I transitioned from a hidden player to a hidden DT player because that was my next avenue was getting country ones on the hard diffs, the insane diffs, and starting to play 6-star maps. And that would have been around like rank 10,000. Yeah, when I met EA, I'd start playing DT on, and I honestly became a player who could only play hidden DT. Lucky for me, there was a lot of hidden DT maps to farm, and I farmed a lot of those. And that led on to the next thing would be like getting country ranking number one. I realized I could get global number ones if I used hard rock on like hard diffs. So I started pushing that avenue and playing for those rank ones with 3 mod. And that's really when I started learning 3 mod at about you know rank 800.
Oh wow.
But yeah, it was about just getting. I just became a DT only player, and I was so very bad in tournaments because I could only play DT. I could only read AR10, um, and I could only play no mod with hidden. It took a very long time. It was only after I met Grand where I would be able to start improving at other skill sets. And for the longest time, I was the biggest joke because I couldn't play. I could play a 6-star DT map in solo, but then come a 5-star no mod map, I'm just feeding it in tournaments. So yeah, it took a very long time to bridge from that gap. It took me about a year to start comfortably playing no mod. Because yeah, one of the bad things about playing hidden so early on is you can just become completely isolated and you can only play hidden. So it took a very long time, but after about a year and playing a lot of tournaments is really what forced me to play that no mod. Otherwise, I didn't see the purpose in doing it.
What exactly was your strategy for going from basically someone who could only play DT down to being able to, I guess, re-solidify your fundamentals and being able to play no mod consistency type stuff again?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, I got like smacked in the mouth. One of these ANZTs, which is our Australian 1v1 tournament, I had lost to a 5 digit, and I was like feeling like I was at my peak in my time. I was, this is me getting 600s and 500 PPDT plays, and I really got beat out by some 5 digit in a tournament, and I was like, man, I'm really not good at this game if I'm such a high rank but can't translate it into tournaments. So that was the year I kind of was like, all right, I was able to play, no mods, but I wasn't consistently FCing them. I wasn't able to FC the no mod twos, the no mod threes, the no mod fours. Like it'd be like I could FC the hidden, like maybe I'd be able to FC hidden one and the DT maps and barely hang on the hard rocks, but it just wasn't enough. So that was the year I'd really play a lot of tournaments. I'd play a lot of 1v1s, and in Australia we had the Kano had set up the battle royale lobbies, and multiplayer was a huge factor in learning no mod as well, because I just in the multi lobbies I'd do whatever everyone else was doing, and leaving no mod up was a good way to improve it. And yeah, it was just playing a lot of multiplayer and a lot of tournaments to play those no mod maps. And then when I went back to solo, I just played what I was good at to keep improving what I was doing. I didn't play any no mod or any of those tournament maps kind of outside of multis. Um, so it could have been a lot faster, but for me it was just playing tournament map pools, playing a lot of tournaments, practicing the map pools, and a lot of multiplayer.
And that's interesting, especially that like, you sort of focus almost entirely in multiplayer to train those skills.
Yeah, it was like I didn't feel like if I was playing solo, I felt like I was wasting my time if I wasn't playing what I was good at.
Ah,
But uh, that was just my mindset at that time. I changed. My mindset did change a lot. As I would get better as well. I'd look back on some of the things like they were mistakes. I don't. I hope anyone listening, there's definitely mistakes in my improvement as well, but there's also some things that are good to take from it. At the end of it, you just take what you can and see what works and what doesn't for you. Um, but yeah, that was definitely a mistake. I wish I played a lot more no mod. Going into, I wish I played a lot more variety at a lower rank than being forced to a high rank, because it wasn't very pleasant when I can do a 7-star DT map and I can't pass. I remember my first 6-star FC no mod was at rank 600. I didn't have a single 6-star FC no mod, and at this point I had 7-star DTFCs and all that stuff. Like I literally didn't have one. Nisox was my first one, and I remember just being like, man, like that took a really long time for me to play that sort of map. I would always just play the DT maps. And yeah, back to the point, it was yeah, it was a lot of multiplayer because I wouldn't play what I liked playing in solo. It just felt like I would play what I enjoyed playing, and that was the DT maps at the time. But if you really really want to, it's awkward because it comes down to that, like the best way to improve is have fun, I feel like, but also having fun for me was detrimental to my improvement on other mods, which I wanted to get good at tournaments. So I had to, you know, abandon fun to get good at what I had to get good at, and that was a hard thing to do. Multiplayer kind of eased that up. It was easy to do if I was playing with my friends and doing it there.
yeah, it sounds like you sort of have to go through that period of just sucking at something, especially if it's a big weakness of yours.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get good in tournament, like if you want to be good at tournaments, um, play tournaments, and you're gonna have to first of all, I'd say get really good at one thing, because you want to have something that you can win. You want to be strong at something, really strong at something, and then um, get good at least good enough to steal a point on some other mod aspect. For me, it was I went DT, and I'd realized that people were really bad at hard rock. They were bad at DT. They'd usually be bad at hard rock. So I went and focused a lot on hard rock.
So you mentioned getting really, really good at one thing first, but you also mentioned that you wish you were a bit more well-rounded in the beginning. So I'm
Mm.
curious, would you recommend if you wanted to be really high skill cap, but then also really well-rounded for tournaments? Would you rather be well-rounded first and then push your skill cap, or push skill cap in just one single skill and then branch out once you're at the top?
I think pushing. I think for like if you want to make an OWC team, I think being expertise in one is much better, because other people are experts in their trade, and being really good at one thing will get you on an OWC team, whereas being mediocre or pretty good at other things, um, they're still going to pick the specialist because it's a team dynamic. You got 8 people, you know. So my goal was my dream, my ultimate goal was always to play OWC, and I realized there was an avenue where I could sneak in there with that with my DT skill. I could definitely make it there. So I really pushed that skill, but you have to be able to play everything up to a you know a really high level. I'd say I'd say yeah, if you're really looking to get good at tournaments, mastering one thing is really good first because you want to be able to pick your picks. You want to win every single one of your picks, and then be at least good enough to FC the other maps. I'd say being an all-rounded player is a lot harder to. It is a really hard thing, and it would take a lot more dedication than it would to improve at the one thing. Improving at several other being an all round is a really tough thing to do. There's only so few players that are really good level. But if you look at the best players and the best tournament players, they're all rounders that are really good.
I'm looking at your play history right now, and there's a lot of maps with like a lot of retries.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
I couldn't wait to get into that sort of thing. How
y-
I play the game actually.
yeah. So I'm mostly curious because like you hear a lot of people say like, "Oh, retrying maps is bad," but is there any value
Yeah.
in playing these maps as many times as you did? I assume a lot of them are probably like stuff that you were playing with really high AR, like AR 11. But I'm
Yeah.
curious if you could go into a bit of that.
Yep. So the way I play, I spam retry very often. I've got so many bad habits. One of my worst habits is how fast or how not focused I am at the start of a map compared to like 100 notes in. Like I know that if I miss at the start, I could just hit retry and keep going. And that is like I'll probably retry a map 15 maps to get 100 combo in, and then start read FC the rest of the map because I have the utmost confidence in my reading that I'm going to be able to read the rest of the map. But that's just where a lot of it. That's a really bad habit I developed very early on. Was like I can just if I miss the start, retry and keep going. I credit some of my high reading to that. Is I would sight read FC a lot of maps just because I would retry the moment I missed and not play the whole map through. One of my worst habits, but it transitioned to another skill later on, which is the AR11. But no, for me it was just like my mind blocks. Like I'm the single worst person. I haven't met anyone other than maybe Rafis. I think it's probably because when I started learning the game, the person I looked up to the most was definitely Rafis, and who I watched the most was definitely Rafis, and he would do the same shit. He would just retry after he missed, and you would watch him mind block the same pattern and retry. And I just watched him so much. I always just thought that was if he's doing it and I'm doing it, then there's no problem. But looking back at it, that was really bad. And also my play count, I was putting in 4 to 5,000 plays a month easily. Um, Anything less than 4K or 3K was considered like a disappointing month for me. But it was because I spam retried so much at the start. But I would say playing a map through is certainly way better. I just didn't have the patience. I was a DT, one trick, very fast, very spam retry, but no, it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, I'm curious about AR11 in particular. Do you feel like this spam retrying is something that actually helped you for AR11, or do you think there's other strategies that you would recommend?
So I guess it would be a lot easier if I just explained how I kind of developed my AR11 skill.
Yeah.
I would always I was always so fascinated. I was always obsessed with country ones and global ones, and I realized that there was there was free market in the AR11 department. Like not a lot of people would AR11 every single map, even if they could. It was like Rafis and all that. They're doing best friends and caffeine fighter, but they're not three modding these hard diffs. And so I saw that that was an avenue I could attack if I sat there and played it. And I got to be honest with you, I didn't get any PP from a three mod map for I reckon a year. I probably had over 100 mod FCs before I got any PP for a three mod FC. Like for me, it wasn't I played it for the PP. I was playing it for the ranking for the
The leaderboard.
global ranking on the map, but after a certain point, after I felt comfortable on it, it became I can now farm this three mod stuff. But something I used to do is, yeah, I used to just watch a lot of Raffis, and everyone was so excited when he'd play three mod because it's such a rare skill, and yeah, that's what really pushed me to learn it as well.
It sounds like you really kind of started from the bottom as far as like you didn't try to play at the same star rating you were doing with your top plays, basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I remember my first three mod FC was it was what's the map's called? Can't remember the map, but I remember the rank one guy. His name was Darren, and the song name was Darren, and it was like In the Flame or something. It was like a 30-second farm map, and he was rank one in it. And I laughed because he was rank one in it, and the title of the map was the same name as him. So I was like, oh, this would be a really cool snipe. Like this is the map I want to do, and that was the first map I played through him on. I spam retried that for ages. I remember FCing it, but I didn't get rank one, and I ended up getting that rank one. And then ever since then, it was like, okay, this is, if I'm good enough to take this map, which had, a lot of SSs hidden DT, so it's been played a lot, then I'm gonna be good enough to get these other maps with, only SS hidden DT rank ones, and be the first three mod FC, and that's really what started it all. So I would just play the really easy maps, hard diffs, insane diffs, but also going for the three mod passes every now and then just to see if I can pass a map was really big.
So at a certain point, did you ever start feeling like you could pretty much only play like AR10 or higher, like 10.3 or higher? And what, like, I know you mentioned that you had to take some time just playing no mod and multiplayers with some friends just to kind of readapt. But what do you think are the sort of best strategies you found for sort of retaining your reading, both with really, really high AR, but also being pretty well rounded in tournament play?
Yeah, so the biggest frustration for me was the stigma around Air 11 and tournament. It's like if you're an Air 11 player, you were like laughed at tournaments. This is back like 3 4 years ago. If you're an Air 11 player, no one is picking you on their team because the stigma around Air 11 at that time was like spam retry, aim one trick, can't play anything else, and it was true because if you look at all the Air 11 players in the past, it was like they all sucked at tournaments, except Rafis. But now if you really break it down, A11 is like probably one of the hardest things to get good at in the game. You're playing hidden, DT, and hard rock, and all three of those mods are in tournaments. And you can play so much of the three mod and translate it into, nothing's OD11 in tournament, nothing's AR11 in tournament. Everything's easier than AR11. Everything's easier than OD11. And so hard rock was really a really easy adaptation after playing three mod. Hard rock just felt like a really easy, like an easier version of three mod, and a lot of people sucked at it. And so if I'm playing OD11 maps and I'm playing AR11 maps, anything below AR11 is going to be a breeze. So all the DTs are going to be, pretty comfy, and all the hard rocks are going to be, doable. And that was kind of my go-to for tournaments. I had the hidden skill from when I played only hidden as opposed to no mod, and no mod was always the easiest pool to get into, but yeah, the biggest thing was just you know, being able to how to translate it, being able to have the utmost confidence that if I was really confident because I knew that if I can learn R11, I could damn sure learn everything else that has to offer because it's the apex of OD and AR. So it was just like I had the utmost confidence in myself that I could learn it because I remember how impossible AR11 used to look. I remember how impossible it felt to play. Um, but I got past it, and so after that, it was like every other aspect in this game was like beneath me. Like it was way easier to improve.
I feel like that confidence is something that's super, super important. And I mean, what aspects of mindset do you feel like are the most important for really cultivating, like to improve as much as possible? Like, what would you say defines a good mindset, quote unquote, versus a bad mindset?
Yeah, I think confidence is definitely number one. Competitiveness, like the utmost confidence in yourself, like all the good players in this game, they're all very confident. The ones that aren't very confident, um, they're very confident in their skill, but they're always like very humble as well in the sense where like they know they can get better. But confidence is the biggest thing. When I'm playing my best is when I feel like I'm at my most confident. Um, where it's like I know I'm gonna FC this map, and I go in and I'm just I've done it before. the confidence to do it again is, it's the opposite of fear. I feel like if you're scared of the map, you're scared how you're gonna play, you're gonna get more nervous, and it's only negative. It's only bad can come from a lack of confidence. So if you're very confident, I feel like it just snowballs all these other good attributes. And yeah, confidence definitely number one. I think a competitive nature, a competitive mindset. Like you have to be, even if you're not competitive against other people, be competitive against yourself. Always try to beat yourself. That's why I love this game so much. Is it's I'm a very competitive person, but there's very few games where you can verse yourself. And this game, you're just versing yourself all the time. So I'd say confidence in a competitive nature and being humble in that. You're not rank one player. Like everyone else is worse than the rank one player. So just understand that you aren't the best, but you're still better than like 600,000 people beneath you. You know what I mean?
Right,
Always
right.
find something to build up your confidence because, yeah, like I remember when I was 5 digit and I was like I FC'd a 5-star map and I was like I felt like I was gonna upload it to YouTube. I didn't in the end. I wish I did now, but like I was so confident, like I was so proud of myself, because I was so much better than so many other people, even though I was like 5 digit. Like showing your friends, like showing off your gameplay to your friends that don't play Osu, like find something to feel good about because you're killing it. Like you should feel, you should always feel confident when you play or some sort of pride, like you know what I mean?
Right,
And
right.
that was just so big for me. And for me, getting that confidence was just getting country ones or global ones. I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna get this global one. I'm not gonna stop playing until I get it because I know I can get it. And then that would be, how I approached it.
Dang, that's crazy. Yeah, especially like just kind of looking back down to like obviously there's many people ahead of you, but there's probably even more. I guess most people listening to this, there's the vast majority of those players are you already past them. So that's definitely a really good point.
Yeah, you just got to be confident and yeah, a lot of people think they're the worst player. They think they're bad 'cause they compare themselves to better players, but like it's good to compare yourself to better players, but take the moment to rejoice in how good you are and compare yourself to the player you used to be and understand that you can only improve. Like you're only going to keep getting better. Um, and if my overall my number one advice in this game is I was playing a lot of League of Legends when I played Osu. When I first started playing Osu, the moment I started getting really good at Osu was when Osu didn't become that second game that I played when my internet went off. Osu became my main game, and when Osu becomes your main, because we're all gamers, all Osu players are gamers. Like once Osu becomes your main game, and that's the game you want to play the most, that's when you'll start to improve like rapidly. So I always say like instead of it being the side piece, make it the main piece, and that's when you'll really start to flourish and improve.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm curious if we can explore your league history for a little bit because I've heard some people mention that you were pretty high rank way back when.
Yeah, yeah. So I peaked what D2, which isn't too good, but I used to like boost like in league, which is you shouldn't do that at all, but I was good enough to do that, and that's what I was doing on the side, and it was just yeah, I was pretty good at it. It was I don't know. I feel like I'm glad I played Osu because now if you get good at Osu, like really good at Osu, you can get good at every game. Like it's really easy because in Osu, all you have to improve, you only have yourself to improve. You could be playing League and you could watch Faker play League and understand a lot of the things he does right, and then go put it in practice, and you could do none of it. But you watch mreck play, you can't do a single thing that he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Right.
um, Fake is not hitting the minions on this wave. It means he wants it coming into him. It's like, oh, okay, I can do that and adapt that to my game. But in Osu, it's like, oh, it's you can't do what the best player is doing, and you just have to do it and get to that point. Um, so it's a different fundamental of improving. Like you can improve by watching League, you can't improve by watching Osu as much. So you have to play it. Um, so it's a different improvement thing, but um, and also in like games like League, you could be getting a lot better and not notice it. In OC, you're gonna notice it um, relatively fast. I always played maps. I play about 200 maps a day. I'd play a lot in the morning and then a second session in the afternoon. Um, And you play 200 maps a day. You're not going to play the same 200 maps tomorrow. You're not going to play the same 200 maps, the next day. Come 6 months later, you like, oh, I played this map ages ago. You see your local score and how you did on it then, and then you go and kill it. 6 months later, you're like, man, I can't believe I was 95% of this map. Now I'm 99 FCing it. You know what I mean? So you see that real life improvement. Whereas in games like team-based games and almost every other game, it's like there's a lot of variables. Also, it's just you and how you're in control of it. So it's a really easy way to track your improvement. And yeah, sometimes it feels like you're not improving, but if you play if you play 200 maps a day every day or 100 maps a day every day, and you just keep doing that, you will look back and you will beat those scores. Come a week, come a month, or however long it is, you'll always get better.
Can you expand a bit more? You mentioned that like if you get better at OC, you can get better at anything, which I sort of see because the way I sort of understand it is that like you just kind of focus on yourself when you're playing OSU. And so like there's no one else to blame and that sort of thing. And you just kind of have to put in the practice and you sort of build that mentality. But at the same time, I feel like as you also mentioned that like the sort of mentality or like the way that you think about like improving at league, like you can try to copy what someone else is doing, but then at the same time, it's like you might not incorporate it in the right way strategically, and so it just completely messes up if
Doesn't
you don't
work
have
out.
that foundation. But I'm curious if you can expand on like what you meant by like if you get better at OSU, then you can pretty much get better at anything.
Yeah, so Osu is extremely an extremely hard game. I think once you're at I'd even say like below 25k right now is like I'd call you a very good a good Osu player. Obviously obviously it is perspective and it's all you know relative, but I'd say 25k in Osu you're playing such a hard game. Like you're probably reading AR10 by that point, and your reaction time is really fast. Your hand-to-eye coordination is very precise. You're developing. You've by that point you've already learnt how to improve, which is a fundamental that is lost beyond a lot of gamers in general. Is the ones that are at the best, they just learnt how to improve. In Osu, the only way to get better is to improve. Like you can't get carried. You're always improving, and that's the biggest as far as philosophy goes, that's the number one in any game. And I always just think, Osu it's a lot of hand-eye coordination. It's a lot of figuring out how to improve on a game that only you can really figure out. So just having the confidence that I know that I was able to learn such a hard skill in such a hard game that nothing's gonna beat it. Like nothing's harder than in a game like mechanically wise, nothing is hitting that AR11 or that even that sight reading a 7-star map. It's like it just gave me a lot of confidence in any other game where it's like my actions aren't the same. They won't necessarily be the same game, but like you just got to trust your mechanics and trust that how to improve in OSU, you're going to know how to improve in other games where it's a lot easier to improve than OSU. Like, you know, picking up a new champ or a new whatever it is. There's heaps that can there's a lot of avenues for improvement in other games, whereas OSU is just the one. Like, you just got to improve to get better.
Yeah, first of all, I'll say that I completely agree with all of that. You mentioned that like especially in a game like OC, like there's less like you can't just watch what other people are doing and sort of gain like any like advice or like strategies, so to speak, in OSU. But I'm curious what the role of advice is in this game because clearly like there's things that you can tell people and they sort of like they start improving a little faster and things like that. So what
Yeah.
is the role of advice in a game like OSU that's seemingly so simple and what are some really important bits of advice that you feel like everyone should hear?
Yeah, okay. So I think obviously, you hear play more every day and everyone hates hearing play more and it's like it's so funny that when people start improving, they'll be like, "Damn, that was that advice was true." And obviously, it can be broken down in heaps of variables, but the biggest one, yeah, main game, absolutely. Osu has to be. If you want to get good at Osu, you can't want to get good at Osu and want to hit challenger and want to hit 3 digit. Like you're gonna have to sacrifice to get some gain. And the biggest one is, yeah, make Osu your main game. Like if you're playing it an hour a day and you're playing Valorant 4 hours a day because Valorant's more fun, I don't see that as you wanting to get good at OSU. It's kind of just like, you kind of just playing, vibing out to music. That's what you want to do. But if you want to improve, like, make that shit your main game. Like, it has to be your main game. Um, if that's, at least that's what it was like for me, and that would be my biggest advice. I'm pretty sure most OSU players, like when they're at their peak and their peak gaming, you ask any single one of them, they'll be like, oh yeah, OSU was the game I was playing the most. Like, I can't imagine anyone without that. I'd love to hear about that. But actually, for me, the first game I was really good at was actually Hearthstone, which is like no mechanics at all. That was and of all the games I've been highest rank in, that's the game I've been the highest rank in relative to the player base. I was ranked 16 legend, which is like very 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 high rank. So that game you can watch people play, and you don't have to play a single game of that game. You could watch someone play it for a year, hop on, play that game, and you're able to hit the highest rank because you understood a lot of the gameplay and a lot of the philosophies. But Osu, I would watch Rafis play, and you know, I would tap whenever I watched him play. I'd always tap. This is like when I'm 5 digit, 4 digit. I'd tap along with him. I'd try and see if I could at least read the maps he was playing. Um, obviously I couldn't, but I'd just try do things like that. I'd watch better players play and try, tapping and really trying to see if at least playing while I'm watching him. Doing something as well. But yeah, the number one thing is, yeah, it has to be your main game, and find that competitive edge, or find what you like about the game, and pursue that. Like, if you like farming DT, don't listen to your friend that's telling you like you can't play DT. Like, you need to play something else. Like, if you like playing DT, play DT, because you could be a one trick in anything in this game, hit a really high rank at that, and the other skills, like, you can pick up, because at the end of the day, it's about how much it's about how the individual improves. And if you got to that high rank in that skill, you're going to be able to do it in other skills as well. Like, you have to have that trust that you can do it, because at the end of the day, you figured it out better than everyone else that did. You know what I mean? So it's it's the individual, it's you that's controlling how great you can be.
Right. And just to add on to that, you mentioned like having like meeting friends that are around your skill level, and just people that are also like just surround yourself with those people that also have that same competitive drive.
Yeah, like Osu's so good. Like, no other game is like Osu. Like, it's completely community driven, and like, for real, you can go into a multiplayer and find a friend like that. Like, I don't know if it's just like, some people, it might be a lot harder than others to make friends or whatnot, but like, don't be scared to go out. I did it. Like, a lot of people do it. Like, message other people around your rank. Oh man, congrats on the new top player. Or, for me, Australia's is very lucky because we're all in the same community, and it was really easy to find the people next to us. But I remember when I was like rank 450 in the 400s, I started talking to Mighty Dog, like people around my rank that were like, I was looking for new. Hey man, I always see Fangs. Yeah, I always see you on these DT leaderboards. Like, got any new maps? And then just people are open to conversations in this game, especially around your rank, because there's a mutual respect. At least that's how I looked at it. And so I always found new people that were around my rank, and I'd always talk to them. I'd always chop it up, and that was a huge thing, because it was like, it was once you're friends with someone, it's like, you know they really bring out the best in you, like, for real. Like, and that's just how it's always been for me. Yeah, friends, competitive edge, and main game. And this is an awkward one, because you can't watch people to improve in this game. But if you're watching Osu, or you're absorbing Osu, like, you're still gonna be improving. Like, subconsciously, your reading's gonna get better, and you know surrounding yourself around Osu people, and the game itself, you're just gonna get better.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective, especially like the sort of mutual respect with people that are around your rank. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. So I want to go back to AR11 a little bit, because I'm curious exactly. So I think a lot of people might be wondering, like, so I guess this is just more like when you're reading in general, but also specifically for high AR, like where exactly is your attention focus? Like, where are you
Yeah,
looking? Are you looking at
this
each
is
individual
something that a
circle?
lot of yeah, this is something that a lot of Air 11 people don't like give advice on. Um, I can't play the game without circle numbers. Like, if it's just the circles, I can't read. Like, I literally If I assess a 6-star DT map, I'm not assessing that 6-star DT map unless I have numbers. I call out every number before I hit it in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, and like you know,
Oh,
every
wow.
every single time I look at a note, like this is when I'm really focused. I'll say the number before I tap it, and I can do that at Air 11. Like, so when people say they can't read Air 11, it's like your eyes can react to Air 11. Believe me, like it's not that fast. It's like 300 ms. It's really not that fast. The difficulty in it comes with the tapping. Um, if you play Air 11 relax mod, you're gonna get way better than if you play Air 11 auto mod, and that's when you'll really be like, wait, I thought this game was like I thought I could tap AR 11 because it's the same tapping as AR 8 or whatever, but really it's so much harder to tap accurately because you're not going to hold sliders as long as they should be. You're going to be tapping early, you're going to be tapping late. Um, so the biggest thing for me is like um, don't put too much stress. A lot of people shift their focus on their aiming hand when they should be focused a lot more on their tapping hand. And yeah, I'll always read the number before I tap it. So, and the utmost biggest advice I have for it is understand the difference. It's so funny because it's so simple. Understand the difference between a hit circle and a slider. Rafa said it like 4 years ago in his interview, and I was like, yeah, it makes sense. He's like talking about how sliders are broken for reading, high IR reading, and they are because you don't get punished for mistiming sliders. But realistically, you have to understand the difference between a circle and a slider because when you try play high AR, you're going to tap sliders when you should be holding them, and you're going to be holding notes that you should tap. It's like when I play easy mod, I can't play easy at all. But the hardest thing to do is understand the difference between a slider and a circle. So the absolute first thing I'll do when I'm reading is it a circle? Is it a slider? Um, and then after that I'll break down from there. Okay, so it's a circle or it's a slider. Okay, it's a circle. How many circles? Is there an instant circle coming here? Like I've counted the one. Is it going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quint? Is it going to be a 1, 2, 3 triple? Or is it going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 circle circle and the slider? But I'm actively every single note. I have this process of circle or slider, and then what number is it? And then after that, it's all pattern recognition. Is it a triple? Because every map like is different, but they all follow the same. All mappers, especially in the rank section, they all follow the exact same. You can hear that there's going to be a triple here, and whatnot. But also another really good tip for improving Air 11 is to play everything DT. Like for me, I was obsessed with country and global rankings, and for me it was the 6-star range. I would go. First thing I'd do when I play OSA, I'd do my warm up routine. I'd go to OSA Direct. I'd play every single new rank map that got ranked that day. At the time, I was up to date with current rank maps. I'd play every single insane diff that came out, hidden DT with 6 to 7 stars. If I didn't ever see it, cool, I'd move on. And that would be my morning session, and then my afternoon session would be the one run. Now this is the farm sesh. This is the sesh where I want to cash in and use some of those. If I found a new map, farm that. But what that do? I say all that to say what that did for me was give me a lot of um I was able to predict a lot of rhythm in maps because I played so many maps. I'd be like, oh, I can hear a triple's about to come. So I'm already a bit anticipating the triple that's coming, and boom, where you have it. There's obviously a triple because I played so many maps. The predictive element of it really helped with sight reading Air 11 at least. So that's how it goes with Sari. You don't have to do it, but like I do use a lot of predicting what the rhythm's going to be like, circle circle slider, circle circle slide. You could sort of hear what the map is trying to do as you play it, and it really helps with sight reading. um uh yeah, so with Air 11, yeah, that's pretty much it. I always say the number before I hit it, and I always am identifying whether it's a circle or a slider. Like that's the two most broad basic fundamentals, and focus on the reason I say every number before I tap is because you can't say the number of a note you're not focused on. You will just lose count. If you get good at that fundamental of saying the number before you tap, your skill is gonna, if you're not already doing that, like focusing on every note, you should be doing that, at least in my opinion. I don't know anyone who just stares in the middle and doesn't, you know, they do it some other way, but saying every number before I tap really refines that fundamental and forces me to focus. when I'm not doing that, I'll find myself missing and whatnot. So yeah, I'd say that's my biggest tip.
Just I have so many questions actually. So I'm gonna start with one that's more simple. Is combo colors? Is that something that you use? Do you have different colors, or are you using Rapid
Okay.
skin, or what?
Yeah, so I just use Raphis skin. Raphis' skin would it just realistically I haven't used a better skin. I don't know if it's just placebo. Like, I remember one time I was like, what colors, have the best reaction? What colors stimulate your mind to give you the fastest response time? And I think it was like red or something, but it was like at the end of the day, it was so insignificant. I can't believe I used to care about that. So insignificant compared, like skin is so insignificant. It helps a lot. I think just playing whatever skin you're comfortable with is the best skin to use. Like sometimes I'll play AR11 with Rapid skin, and I have a different AR11 skin to DT skin, but that's just because when I'm playing DT, I don't have to hyper focus. It's just like I play what skin looks pretty. But when I'm playing AR11, it's about clean, basic Raph skin. Just clean, no mess, just focus. I'm not attracted by the colors of my hit circles and the curse and whatnot. It's just whatever's broad. I'm trying to just stay focused on the core game, not the skin.
So on a similar topic, I'm curious. Like, do you put your eyes on each individual circle as well? Like, I know you mentioned you're counting the numbers in your head, but
Yeah.
where exactly are your eyes focused?
Every single no. There's a clip of me playing Kigurumi. Grand Senpai's
Oh
Kigurumi
yeah.
A map, the nonsense love map. There's a clip of me playing it, and my eyes are just going across the screen at like rapid, because I'm looking. I read. I do look at every single circle, and you can just see my eyes going across the screen. Yeah, I'm looking at every single circle, and if it's a bit too intense, like sometimes it's really hard to do on like an 8 note star pattern that's just 300 BPM. It's like you're not going to be able to focus every single thing, but as soon as you hit the one, like go to the two, and then you know where the three's going because you can kind of see what this dude's doing with his pattern. So shift your eyes. Doesn't have to be exactly on the note, but in that area, it will really improve your aim if you look at every note. And it's a really really hard skill to develop, but it's a fundamental that once you learn, you'll do it every single map subconsciously. And now I don't even think about that I'm doing it. I'm just doing it every time. It does take a while. I don't remember when I actively started doing that. It's a shame that I can't pinpoint a certain point where I was like, oh, that's when I really started doing it. But that's just one of those things that's why playing more is so good, because new great fundamental habits you can just start doing them, and that's why the game is so good, because the more you play, the more you open yourself up to receiving these new revolutionary discoveries that just accelerate your game exponentially. So
That's crazy. I know a lot of people have like different sort of schools of thought when it comes to like, should you look at each individual circle and it's like, is it a waste of energy? And like, even some AR11 players say that like, it's just way too fast to do it that way. But I think it's really cool that you have that completely different perspective. That is, you're basically saying like, no, screw those like limiting beliefs, so to speak. Like, it is
oh,
possible. And
absolutely.
so, yeah, that's
Absolutely. The
awesome.
uh the biggest thing limiting, I did want to make sure I mentioned this, that the fact that you can just completely limit yourself to maps, like for me, I would play a 6-star map. I couldn't do streams when I was new. So I'd play a 6-star map. If there was a stream in it, cool, I'm not doing it. But I couldn't tell if a map had streams in it. Um Something that I was so truly blessed, and I credit this to like a lot of my improvement, was I didn't know what AR was, I didn't know what OD was, and I didn't know what any of the stats at the top of a map meant. I only knew the length, and then all that other shit I just didn't know what it meant at all. So it was only until I met Ye, which was, that 5-digit range, was when he told me what those things were, and how they actually changed map by map. So I never limited myself. I just played a map, and if I could play it, it was like, oh, okay, it looks like I could maybe FC this, or maybe pass it, or maybe I'll get it later. Um, that was how I gauged the map's difficulty. You can't look at a map and be like, oh, it's 270 BPM. I can't play this. For me, it was like, okay, I can't single tap this map. I can't play this. It'd be 300 BPM 6-star map was fine. 300 BPM 7-star maps, like, okay, I can't play this at all. But I didn't limit myself. I always played the map, and you have to play the map. You can't set limits or barriers to anything in this game. You have to see for yourself. Like, it's just the stupidest thing to me, because all maps are different. Like a 300 BPM map's not going to play the same as a 300 BPM stream map and 300 BPM alt map. Like, you can't tell just by the numbers. You have to actively play and see if you can do it. Even if you even if the moment you start limiting yourself, you're shutting off room for improvement in my belief.
Dang, that's crazy. Actually, um, you mentioned like sort of not like I guess not even knowing about AR like AR or any of those settings until you mentioned this player named Ye. How do you spell that person's username?
YAY.
Oh, this is just
Like
YAY.
yeah, his three letter username, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, that's definitely like my day one of the first people. I was pretty big in the Mania community. I definitely had some friends in Mania. A lot of Australian friends, but for standard, it took me a really long time before I started, because I played offline for so long. And Ye was one of the other guys I'd always see, country one, hidden 5-star map. If someone had it, it was Ye. So he was obviously the first person I approached, and yeah, we developed a lifelong like friendship off the game. So, you know, he told me about AR. He told me about Tillerino. He told me about PP. Like I wasn't playing for PP. I was playing for the country ranking number one. Like it's just a completely different mindset for me that most people would have now because the access to the information's everywhere. Like you're just gonna get. I was lucky that I didn't know these things. I guess I could say.
Dang, that's crazy. I feel like it's even more interesting because Rafis has said the same thing that like Rafis just had no idea what AR was or anything like that.
Yeah, and of all the people I watched the most, it was definitely Rafis, and I was the biggest fanboy, and I got to say, for me it was like I got I've had I've played this game, I've played tournaments with literally every single person I idolized when I first started playing. I got to the point where I was good enough to play with them in teams and tournaments and win tournaments with them. And it's just like I look back at it like, man, I really did it all, and I was really proud of that. But Rafis is, yeah, man, it's just like I idolized him so much when I was new. Like I was that cringe 6-digit, 5-digit, whatever you want to say, like begging him to play my maps, and you know, Mreck's literally the same thing. Like, we always have this joke running around with like, Mreck's like that 6-digit. Like, he has that 6-digit mentality still as number one. Like, he's got that. It's just weird. It's like he got way too good, way too fast. It's so funny. But I'd like to talk about Mreck a little later. But yeah,
No,
Rafis was insurmountable, and that was probably one of my bigger influences for AR11. And Emperor Penguin was like he was. I remember when I first started playing, it was Emperor Penguin, Ressia, Moffo, uh, Adam QS, and A Star and Phil's Alarm. Like all those 3 mod players, like man, I really idolized a lot of them. I just wanted to, I just found it so cool that you could play this mod and be so good at it. So yeah, I definitely found that. Damn, that was something I wanted to try as well, and I pushed towards it. But Rafis was certainly a huge inspiration for me at the time.
so something you mentioned earlier is that you really liked having more than one session. You'd have a morning and like an afternoon session, basically. What do you
Yeah.
think is the value in like having multiple sessions compared to just one?
Yeah, so I always this would have been after I'm 3-digit now. So after I'm 3-digit, I've understood what I'm doing is working. I never plateaued it. Right, I plateaued it like my first rank plateau. Like every single Friday, I'd call it Farm Fridays, Farm Fridays. Every single Friday was my farm day, and that would be the day where I'd play. I'd visit the PP maps. I'd visit the Hyori Itai, the Kaito, like the farm DT maps. I'm not playing for country one or global one here. I'm playing to increase my rank. Um, so I always stuck with a pretty good routine. I worked Monday to Friday. I worked full time after school, and yeah, after graduating, I worked full time Monday to Friday, just your 9 to 5 at Macca's. And that Friday afternoon session was my farm session. But after I stopped working 9 to 5, and I didn't have a job, I had a lot of free time. I was very lucky. I think if you have the free time and you want to get good at OC, then there shouldn't be excuses. Like you could definitely do it. But after that, I didn't have a job, and I'd do my morning session would consist of me downloading all the new ranked maps that got ranked. I'd play the 6-star insane divs, like the 4-star insane divs. Go for a high global rank. If I can't get a global rank, at least I'm gonna get country rank number one. And then I'd do all that stuff. And then the second session would be like I'd look for those first maps in the first session, which would go from about 10 a.m. to about 1 p.m. Then I'd have my break, I'd have my food, and then I'd go about 3 till 6 p.m. and that would be FC the maps that I just downloaded. Like now I'm looking at FC them, or now I'm visiting old maps and looking at FC some of those. But just a constant of the first session was about gathering maps. It was about figuring out what maps that I could play, and then the second session was more about doing the maps that I have found and playing the maps to FC them. More so, and that was just the same. I did that every single day for months. Like I always had 2 sessions. I always know because the first session, a lot of the Americans would still be awake. Like Fangzy would still be on, Mighty Doc would still be on, and I would be like, okay, what if they play today? Who else? Blairsy. Like these are the people that. And then I saw Hagar like from when he was really low rank, and I was just like, I remember starting to see him pop up in rank ones. I remember he had like 4 rank 1s when I first checked it, and I was like, and now I look at him now, and I'm like, yeah, he took it to the next level. But you start to see these things, and that was what I was playing for. I started to see these players, and yeah, it was just I just kept that same routine. And then Friday would come, and I'd always farm on Fridays. Like that was the day where it was like, okay, I had I had a reward system in place for farming. So my favorite soft drink was Pepsi, and my favorite lolly was Cool Mints, and I'd always buy them. And I wasn't able. I was never. I'd pour a glass of Pepsi, and the only way I'd ever gonna have a sip of that Pepsi was if I got PP,
Oh my
and I
god.
always ended up finishing that glass and having those lollies. But I had a reward system in place where I'm not having it if I didn't farm, and I never didn't farm on a Friday. Like I always farmed on the Friday, and I always was able to get to my reward. I stopped doing that after about a while. After a while, I stopped doing it. When I started getting into more tournaments, and I couldn't keep the same routine because I'm up at fucking 3 in the morning the night before. But yeah, it was really good. I had a good reward system, but if it was, I'd say 2 sessions a day was very optimal for me. It just worked that I wanted to play every map that got ranked, and I wanted to um get country one, global one as many maps as I could. For me, I had to do sort of Tuesday. I didn't want to burn out for me. I couldn't do one 8 hour session. I could when I was like 5 digit, but you start to fizzle out, and I always just was like, okay, I know when I'm fizzling out, I'll stop it here and save it for the next sesh.
Dang, that's crazy. I've never heard of something like that reward system, but that's big brain.
Yeah, well, for me, it was like, for this game, it's like if you don't punish yourself, no one's gonna punish you. If you don't set goals for yourself, you know, you have to do these things because it's just you. Like, you know what I mean? So for me, it was like it was good to have that punishment there. It was like, you just miss a map and you're like, oh fuck, I can't do it. I'm just gonna go next. For me, it was like, no, fuck that. It's like I can't do it. I'm sitting here until I do it, and I'm not having that Pepsi until I do it. So that was just it. Like it was just for me, it was like if I didn't do that, I'm cheating myself, and that's how I approached it.
So what would you do between sessions? So you had a morning session, then I assume you would
Yeah,
sort of like let yourself lose your warm up a
yeah,
little bit.
food. Yeah, so my warm I'd have to restart my warm up on that but the second sesh warm up was always way easier than the first sesh. Um, yeah, so NBA would be on from about midday until the afternoon. I just watch an NBA game. During that time, I would play other games during that time, play TFT, League of Legends, stuff like that. Um, watch streams during that time. And yeah, I would sometimes the second sesh would just be like literally after like a food break if I felt really good, especially on a Friday. Like on my Fridays, like because I'm going in with the intention of farming, like I'm looking for everything and absolutely everything. And when I first started playing this game, farming was so frowned upon. Like there was a huge separation between tournament players and farmers. Like you were a hidden DT farmer, like you were gross, like you were so task player, but like it's like now you look at it and it's like if you're a farmer now, you're a fucking freak. Like the skill level of people nowadays is un unreal good, and I credit a lot of it to the players that just farm. Like mreck just only played Sotark's 1-2 jump maps, and you can't deny that he's the best player we've ever seen. Like it's just unreal. So
Right.
yeah, don't listen to the stigma. mreck didn't listen to the stigma of being a farmer or one trick, so you don't have to either.
That is crazy. So you mentioned warm up routine. Do you have like a specific way that you'd like to warm up?
Yeah, I do want to talk about developing on some of the weaknesses that I had. But for my warm up, my warm up routine usually consisted of I remember Grant used to play like 9-star aim maps. He couldn't FC, like he'd maybe FC 7-star no mod maps at the time, but he'd play like 9-star bullshit, like the hardest map, like maps to pass to warm up. For me, I'd never play a map if I'd never play for passes like that. I'd always be like, I'd only play maps I could FC, or like I was gonna FC in the future. I would never play maps just to pass like that, unless it was playing 3 mod. And now I do it a lot. But when I was actively improving, I would my warm up routine would just consist of like 7-star no mod aim. You know those jump maps like unranked 7-star no mod maps were really comfortable jumps, and I'd do that. I'd do I'd do DT maps that I already FC'd, like summertime music, a lot of Frostmourne DT maps. Like I've probably FC'd summertime music like more than 60 times, and Endless Night, and those sort of DT maps. I've just Okadi and SI was a big one for me as well. I just play the maps that I've FC'd so many times, and I'd go to it, and like it's a good indicator because it's like if I FC'd Okai and aside my warm up, maybe it took me about 4 retries, but I FC'd in my warm up. I'm like, fuck, I'm feeling good about this session. Whereas other sessions, like I could FC at the first map, and I'm like, okay, I'm on today. Like this, we're not fucking around today. It's money.
Dang. Okay, let's go. So,
Yeah, it
so
was just
you would just
playing
get
those
on
maps
and
I FC'd.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. So just focusing on FCs basically.
Absolutely. FCing is like so that's a huge confidence booster, right? You have to find, for me, confidence is everything. You have to find, if you have to go back and FC your hunt, for me, it's like another thing I'll talk about. If you can't FC the map that's 100th in your, like the 100th in your top plays, you have 100 top plays. If you can't do that, for me, it was like if I can't get an RB today, like on Farm Fridays, like that's all it took was to put one of my scores in the top 100. But to RB recent best, like put a score in your top 100, I was always able to knock a score out of my top plays. And if I could, what's the score at the bottom of my top 100? Oh, okay, it's a choke on some bullshit. Oh, let's FC that, or just knocking out that. If for me, I always was like, I have to be at least good enough because some of these scores are a year old. Like I'm way better than a year ago. If I can't knock this shit out of my top plays, that's at the bottom. Then I failed. But I was lucky for me. I was always good enough to do that. But every session, if I wasn't RBing, like setting a 1 in 100 score, then it was a fail. It was a failure. So
Dang,
that's
that's
something
crazy.
that I'd say for players to improve. It's like you might not be able to set your top one, top five play, but fuck, you should be able to send out that 99th play, like get that shit out of there. Like if you're having a bad day as well, uh, where I found myself improving was like sometimes you get shit sleeps, sometimes you're just not feeling like playing. That's when you play AR8. That's when you play CS7. That's when you play all that bullshit that you'd never play. Like, don't waste your sick days, your tired days, don't waste them not playing because you don't feel good. Waste them playing shit you'd never play. Like because you're just gonna improve in that, and that's something I do. If I didn't feel like I was playing well, I'm just gonna play something I'm really bad at and don't enjoy because I don't want to be playing those when I'm playing well. I want to be playing what I like when I'm playing well. So that was, I took the sacrifice to get good, and I think everyone should do that.
Dang, yeah, that's really smart. I feel like that sort of ties into you mentioned you want to expand a bit on like developing your weaknesses.
Mm. Yeah, so absolutely, and I was very lucky that my friend group consisted of Karlak, who is one of the fastest improving players. He's got one of the most well-written guides, extremely smart person. He is the goat of improvement. Like he knows exactly what people should be doing. He has this Invis area calibration thing where he can calibrate your area exactly how you want your area to be. That was the whole reason Australia got good as a country was like I credit Kano and Karlak. Karlak for his Invis area and Kano for his battle royale things that we set up. But Karlak would get you on these 160 BPM stream map. Like you just have to keep playing these stream maps. And the first the first map, the map I used to improve streams was Save Me. I was never one for the 150 BPM stream square practice maps. Like I just couldn't do it. It frustrated me so much. Um, and everyone around me, this is like I remember Ceiling Waffle had the Save Me FC, and everyone had saved me in their top plays, and I didn't have it in my top plays, and I was like, I can't even fucking pass the first stream in this map. But I spam retried that map, and that was how I learnt streams. How I learnt alt tapping was I spammed Lonely Go to pass it, and then now every time I play an alt map, I'm like, it's not Lonely Go difficulty, I can do it. So you don't have to do these stream practice maps, these aim practice maps to improve. You can improve by playing the maps with those skill sets in them, and that's how I improved streams with Save Me. My first pass on Save Me was an FC, and Lonely Go was how I learned alt tapping, alt DT as well. Korolak is Smork now as well, by the way. He goes by the name Smork, but he was so good in pointing out weaknesses in people's gameplays and things that they should be doing. Um, so, he was really really consistent. He's really struggled with nerves though, and that was his downfall was he couldn't do nerves, and RSI of course got to him in the end. But yeah, he was just really important.
What was this like Invis area thing? So I
Oh,
imagine
this
it's
is
like
dark tech. This is I actually don't know what that. This is dark tech. So what you do? It's probably fine to say now, but we kept this under the radar for years. Like OWC, we were running this shit. Like every single player had used Invis area calibration. Um, and everyone in Stray's aim just got so good because of Grand Senpai and Jordan as well. Like they made aim. Remember back when aim was like, oh, you're just an aim one trick, like you're a 1-2
yeah.
farmer. But then our country kind of became like, oh, we do these sudden death battle royale multiplayer lobbies where like we have 16 players, 8 versus 8, sudden death on a 7-star jump aim map, team verse. Everyone like each team needs an FC to win, and that was
Oh,
like that shit sent our country from like a trash team in OWC to like contenders in the top three, but we always choked, always fucked it, but our country improved significantly. The Invis area calibration, pretty much, you're gonna play a map with an Invis area, you're gonna play it no fail, you're gonna play it
you mean
with
Invis
and
cursor or what?
Invis cursor, no fail. And Korolak's gonna be watching you play, he's gonna be spectating you, and he's gonna say, all right, put your hand on your tablet, find the most comfortable posture, your most comfortable grip, and just play. Just play the game. Like you're not tapping. You're not allowed to tap, and you're not allowed to You're just aiming, and he's just watching your hand movement the whole time. He's watching where your cursor's going. Oh, okay, lift your hand. Add this to X. Add this to Y in your area. Start playing. Okay, now you're starting to get close to the notes. Okay, this is looking good. And then he'll say, okay, start tapping. You've still got no cursor at this point. Start tapping. You tap a note and it hits, and you're like, oh, what the fuck? I've just hit a note on Invis. And now I'm like, and now you can see your cursor without having a cursor. You've got an imaginary cursor that you're playing with, and you're just aiming. And you're just like, he's the best at it. He can get like 600 combo deep in maps with an Invis cursor because he does it before every session. But that pretty much calibrates your area is perfect for you. Like he's gonna sit there, and sometimes it was really bad with me, and it's really bad with Raffis. Sometimes that shit would take like hours to calibrate because like you keep drifting to the right, and you're not doing the same habits. But he would calibrate the area specifically to that person, and every single player would have the perfect area for them. Like it didn't matter what. If you got into your position, your area was sorted, so you didn't have to worry about it.
That's so big brain. Oh my god.
Yeah, we kept that shit under the radar for years, dog. Like the entire OWC team had done this invis area thing. So there was no excuse with bad aim. It was just bad reading or bad something else. But your aim was right, so
Dang, that is crazy. So, oh, what do you mean by like recalibrating? Like doing it at the start of each session? Like what exactly? Like you would reset your
so
area based on how
no,
you.
so after that you have your area. Like you don't have to that's just for people that they feel like their area is wrong. It's like, okay, let's have a look and see how wrong it is. Oh shit, it is wrong. You're 10 units to the right. Like move that shit to the left. You wouldn't find out unless you played Invis because you don't have when you have the cursor, you're not playing how you play. You're playing how you see you play. And removing the cursor removes that element of you can see what you're doing. You can't see what you're doing wrong. And so that area calibration thing just will set you right. Now that you're 10 units to the left, it's like, okay, you shouldn't be that far right next time. You might still drift right because a lot of people naturally drift right with their that was something that like messed me up was how much tablet aim drift that people have that they don't know that they have. You think it's just a mouse thing, but realistically, if you take off your cursor and you watch you play, you're just gonna slowly drift to the right between every jump section. Um, but no, I wouldn't do that. I mean, realistically, if I really had the time and I really wanted to improve again, I would do Invis area every single morning, and I would do so many things different now that I know like the best way or what I think is the best way to improve in certain things. I would do it like I know that you have to play. I know that you have to sit there and play the fucking 240 BPM stamina maps to be able to play 240 BPM stamina streams. Like you just have to get there and grind. But I just right now I don't want to do that, but I know that you can do that. To do it, you have to do it. So, but yeah, I wouldn't do Invis area Invis area I'd do like once a month, and then I'd be like, fuck, man, my area feels wrong. But it's bad to lean on that as like a fix. It's bad to lean on that as a habit. It's like, oh, I've always got this at the back of my mind. It's like, no, you can't do that. That's you're just enforcing. You're just blanketing bad habits. Like what's actually going wrong, or your posture's wrong, or your arm placement's wrong. It's not the area. So yeah, the Invis area calibration was really big, and I've stuck with my last one for a few months now, and every time I play, I'm just like, it's not my area, it's how I'm sitting, or it's something else.
So like removing that variable, basically.
But yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy. So yeah, but I'm glad you sort of made that warning that like you don't want to rely too heavily on like every time your aim's off, it's like, oh, let me just recalibrate it.
Exactly.
Like once
Yeah,
you
yeah,
figure it
because
out, like you just have to stick with it, and like that like if your aim is off from then on, then like your posture's wrong, or you're reading things wrong, or you're just not feeling right that
yeah,
day.
you're doing something different, and like it takes you 10 seconds, not 10, it takes you a map to turn off your cursor. You can do it by yourself now. You've been taught how. Turn off your cursor, play a map, don't tap, see what your aim's doing, watch the replay. Oh god, okay, I am really far right. And then you're like, oh shit, my chair's a bit far right. Or it's like, okay, maybe my posture's fine, maybe I'll just move my area a little bit to the left. But you should use Invis cursor if you're ever going to change your area because you can't actually see. When you have a cursor, it's different. I can't really describe it, but it's like you're not getting your pure result, you're just getting a fabricated result.
Dang, that is crazy. So I want to go back to Emmerich a little bit. You mentioned him earlier. You were like he still has that 6-digit mentality despite being rank 1 now. Can you expand a little
Mm.
bit on that?
So for me, of all the things I've played, I've played tournaments with, I played a tournament with Wolf, Gecko, Gates. So they were the two rank one, the first rank one player, and like Wolf as well. I played with him in the tournament. I played OWC. I played with mreck White Cat in the same team. Like I've had some crazy shit happen in my OC career, but the absolute best thing about my OC career was watching mreck go from like 2000. I remember the first map I saw mreck on a country ranking because I know everyone who's got country rank number one. If it's like, oh, this map, oh, I know this guy's got it, or this guy would have it. But I remember mreck, he was rank one on crack tracks. You remember that old Cookies he used to play it a lot? It
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
he was the only hidden FC in the country, and he would have been like ranked 2000 at the time. Every single Australian player, like, was like, oh, he's just a cheater because he never played. He was like, I never caught this guy online. I had never seen him on a single other country rank one, and he's on this map. It's like it's not a very hard map. It's a pretty hard map. It's like we
Top
didn't
diff?
expect it. Yeah, I don't know if it's top diff. It might have been top diff. He probably done that. He's probably fucking DT
Oh
now.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like,
5 years ago,
yeah,
yeah, I found it. It
yeah.
is. It's a
Okay,
slider
there it
break
is. Oh, okay, yeah. He was country one on it though.
with hidden. Yep.
And 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 yeah. So I knew of this player, and it was like everyone knew of him. But we all just assumed he was cheating. Then he had he started improving real fast. Like he just kept playing like bombs away DT, all those. So that Sotux meta, like if anyone was playing, like a lot of our rank ones, what do we have? We had Ugity who would farm those maps. Dummy wouldn't farm those maps, and then Box and Darabin came and they would farm those maps. But mreck would also play those, Sotux DT 1-2 farm maps. But we all just thought he was fucking cheating. I was like, I'll admit it, I was like the worst for thinking he was a cheater. Like when he overtook me, I was like, he overtook me and he FC burned this moment into the red of my eye, hit hard drop. He did it in 4 tries. He had two like almost FCs and then he FC'd it and it was like he was rank. God, what rank was he at the time? He would have been like 600 to 800 when he FC'd that, and it was like, oh, he's just fuck. Because only at the time, I think it was Cookeasy and there was one other FC on the map. I can't remember who it was. Burned the moment into red of my eye, but there was no Hard Rock FC, but mreck had fucking done it, and it was like, okay, he's a DT one trick. How the fuck did he just pull this out? Like, no way he just FC'd this and no and 4 tries and he's like, this is his best score by a mile. Everything else is a 1-2 farm. This is like this is long consistency. This is hard. This is it. And he overtook me and I was like, oh, he's definitely just I said it. I was like, this guy's either cheating or he's the best player in the world. And now I always look back at it and I'm like, fuck, I was wrong, but I was right. Like so yeah, but he had this he just kept doing the exact same shit that he had been doing the whole time, and that was he plays farm maps, right? He doesn't care what he's playing farm maps. He wants to get a high rank. He wants to get PP. He wants to farm, and all he does is farm. He doesn't go playing unranked maps and all this tournaments and shit. Like first tournament, I'm pretty sure it wasn't OWC. It might have been Corsace then OWC, but he was just a farmer, just farming, and he just kept doing what worked, which was farming. And being a part of like after we had him on the OWC team and he couldn't provide live plays for his OWC tries and he couldn't his live plays were like he had like a 2 miss on Lonely Go and then his submitted live play on Lonely Go was like 80% like 20 miss because he just hopped on and played it and thought that's all he had to do. It was like no, now looking back at it, he's like fucking 12 years old or something. Like he doesn't really understand. Like he's really young, doesn't it? Doesn't understand a lot. So it's very misleading to us who are like a bit older, we know. And that didn't help the case. We're all just like, oh, he's just fucking cheating. But now looking back at it, like the only one who can really laugh is him. And yeah, just being a part of watching his rank one climb, and it was like, okay, every single player got overtaken by him in the end. It was just like, where were you when he overtook you? You know, where was he when he overtook you? Is Yeah, it's really fun to talk about. But no, he's had the right confident mindset. Like you watch him, if he thinks he can do a map, he's gonna do it. Like he's not just gonna sit there and be like, can't fucking do it. He's gonna play it and see if he can do it, and then do it. And he also does this method where he's like, he'll play for passes sometimes, which I think is really healthy. A lot of people they say don't play for passes. He plays for passes, sees where his skills are. Okay, I'm here now. You watch him revisit in 6 months, and it's like, oh, now he's nearly FCing it. So he has that really good same mindset that like a lot of the really good players have. Where they'll play maps, see where their skills at. Okay, they're not frustrated. They're not doing it. They're just like they understand where they're at, and they understand that now's not the time for that sort of map or that skill, but they'll get back to it in due time. But yeah, playing a lot and just understanding that farming is equal to um improving in a regard where if you're just always farming, you're always improving. You can't farm without improving. You'll stop, you'll plateau. But yeah.
I went to check his crack tracks score because you mentioned it, and he has an 88% with hidden double time on that top div. The same
Uh,
one. That's like
yeah, like
7.2
dude,
stars.
to be honest, I cannot believe White Cat got overtaken. Like, because when White Cat that rain White Cat had, it was like it was surreal. It was like, how can someone be this good that I haven't heard of? And it was like surreal. And then Baxter had that resurgence. And then it was like, okay, the guy who overtakes White Cat is going to be a freak. Like, and it was mreck. And then the guy whoever overtakes mreck next, I can't even fathom that person's skill. Like this guy, like it's what I'm most excited to about this game is who's gonna be the next rank one. Like, in my opinion, it can't be anyone actively playing now. Like, has to be someone we have no idea of. Maybe that. I think there's Window Life is looking pretty good, but like mreck is still just fucking improving every day. It blows my mind. He's such an alien.
You mentioned earlier, you said he has this like 6-digit mentality still. Like, can you explain what you
Oh,
meant by
that's
that?
just I mean more like he's very like how could I how c- 6 digits they like I don't want to like dem you know how do I explain this? It's like he's the sixth. The way we kind of joke about it is like he's the sixth digit that became the best player in the world. Where it's like he will farm anything, he'll play anything. He um he's hungry to snipe people. Like he's just like I guess I just say because when we were all six digit, we were all improving, and it's more like an inside joke with like my friend goes like when we were all six digit, we are all improving because we all ended up three digits. So when we were six digit, we are all just always improving. Um, and mreck is just always improving. And it's like when you're six digit or five digit, you look at the person above you, see, oh, this guy like mreck will see like a RUK on the country on the selected module, see math, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna attack that. Like that's mine. Like that competitive that competitive edge to go and attack. You can tell he's attacking that map specifically because that player's played it. Like it's not because he just wants the map. It's like he'll play it if no one else has played it, or play it if he wants rank one on it. Like he just has that competitive mindset about him, that dog in him, and it's not like that six digit like a little bit of the immaturity as well, but that's just because he's really young and he's got a lot of he's still growing, so that's more so what it is.
Oh, I see. So that sort of like carefreeness of like just just
Yeah,
being so competitive to any map, just playing whatever the heck you want, and just
not
always
limiting
improving.
himself. Yeah, not limiting himself. Like I mean, it's funny because like I'm talking about the six digits that like got out of six digit and got really good. We kind of look back at that time in our lives and we're just like, we were way better than that rank, obviously. But to all the six digits out there that is still six digit, like that's absolutely no offense to anyone. It's just it's different for everyone. And I think right now as well, like when I first started playing, four digit was like three digit was like the holy grail. Like if you got three digits, that was like wow, you're a three digit. Like you're very intimidating in multiplayer lobbies. Now it's like if you're like below rank 5,000, I feel like with OSU inflation, like the skill level of 5,000, rank 5,000 is like equivalent to the three digits when I was three digits. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely agreed. So you said you had a couple notes that you took before we started the interview. Are there specific topics that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I just wanted to one of the things I'd already touched on was you can play certain maps to increase certain skills, like the Lonely Go. For me, I could never ult. I could never ult, and my obsession with getting country one on maps, and I really wanted to be able to DT a 6-star and a 5-star map, like um without like I always wanted to be able to FC it at that skill level. And sometimes that required being able to ult. Like I could single tap 300 BPM, but some taps you just couldn't. Um, so it frustrated me not being one of those players, and I started seeing those old DT players like Haga, um, people like Elysion, um, Adam QS, like those alt DT. I was like, I realized, oh damn, this is another avenue of skills that is part of DT that I don't have. So Lonely Go, Fiery's Extra was like I had a lot of fun playing that map, and you could only ult that, you couldn't single tap it. At least I couldn't, so I'd spam the shit out of that, and probably put about 700 plays in that map, and then I'd go to like a 5-star DT map with ult, and it's like it's not comparable. Like I've been playing a 9-star A map, way higher OD, way higher AR. It's like, yeah, of course my ulting is going to translate to this now, and it did because I had that confidence that it's not as hard as Lonely Go. I'm going to be able to do it. So that was how I improved ulting, and now I've got some really good ult scores, really good finger control. Um, not limiting myself to any maps. Always playing the map and seeing if I can do it. Um, Another thing was with AR11. What are you playing AR11 for? Are you trying to get country ones? Are you playing AR11 to get good at AR11? Are you playing it to farm AR11? Or you just want to learn AR11? I would say if you want to learn AR11, be willing to sacrifice the PP and the rank ones because they're not going to come straight away. Like you got to understand that you're learning a skill. Like Air 11, it's gonna stay. Like I can not play Air 11 for a year and I'll still be able to sight read after just coming on a hard diff. Because it's not hard to aim. It's not hard to tap. It's hard because the AR. But AR 11 to me now it's ingrained. It doesn't go away. It's just like hidden. Like it's a little bit more extreme, but it's just like hidden where once you've learned that skill, it's gonna stay with you forever. For a long degree. Like you can see with Raffis, like he can not touch air 11 for a year and come back and still just not miss a beat. Um, but play hard diffs. I can't say it enough. Like people playing Air 11, and first and foremost, you have to be able to play DT at a high level to be able to play Air 11. I wish you could play Air 11 without DT, but the reality is you can't. So you need speed for DT, you need fast aim, you need a lot of things before you can actually get to that Air 11 point. You have to be it's a shame you have to play DT, but it is what it is. So your speed's gonna have to be there. So to get faster, you're gonna have to play faster maps, play more DT. But play the hard diffs and learn the AR. And really, I can't stress it enough about the circles and the sliders. Like, understand the difference. Every single note you hit, I want you to, and every note you miss, if you can't tell me the number you missed, you weren't focused enough on it. That's just how I like. That's for me. Like, if I miss a note, I know exactly what number it was, and I know if it was a circle or a slider. But like, not everyone can say the same thing because that's not how they read. But that's how I read. And like, I've got like an 11-minute AR11 side read FC. Like, it's it's just good fundamental trainings. Stick with them, and the results will come later. Like, I didn't get PP. I only wanted like the rank ones and whatnot, but it frustrated me beyond belief that I couldn't get PP from 3mod because a 94% FC on OK Dad wasn't going to beat an SS on OK Dad like in DT. So it frustrated me beyond belief, but no, that was it. And it really will translate to other skills. Like, I find that ALM is not even the hardest thing to read in this game. I think that some of the 400 BPM DT stuff Adam QS was doing, players like Adam QS, players like Matthew now, Fancy Lad on some of the old DTs. I find some of that's way harder to read than the fast sliders and the doubles and whatnot at really high BPM is harder to read than AR11. Like, because the tapping's so intensive. The tapping is hard, and holding the sliders and reverse sliders and whatnot. So yeah, just master. If you get good at AR11, like, you're learning the AR, go play the hard diff. Go play the most boring, you know, 4-star hard diff or whatever it is. You're gonna learn the AR. That's what you're there for. You're not there to farm. You're there to learn the approach rate. And once you've got the approach rate down, you can start doing more intricate maps. And the way I started, or the best way to start, is find a map that you've. For me, it was Hair Bearer Fanfare. The Hazu's insane. I think it's probably still my most played map. But I just spam retried the one map because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you spam retrying the one map. You're spam retrying AR11, and that's what you're trying to improve at. So it literally doesn't matter what you're playing as long as you're playing AR11. I played a map that was like, um, it was pretty intensive. I wouldn't get PP from it unless I SS'd it or like 2-100 it, which was never happening because that shit's way too hard. But I I was able to spam retry that map and it really helped. It really does. So yeah, best advice for that would be play a lot of DT as well because being able to predict rhythm and being able to predict what the map is going to do is a huge advantage to AR11 because it is hard to react. So, but if you're predicting and you're like, oh, I know how this is gonna play out, it really does help. That split second of millisecond of thinking ahead of where you are is it's really hard to do on AR11 because you always feel like you're behind, but you aren't. Your left hand is a huge focus of AR11 as well. Like, a lot of it comes from your left hand. A lot of the difficulty comes from your left hand. Don't play relaxed to improve it. Play auto to improve it. See where you're at, and understand that the sacrifice that comes with mastering that sort of thing is it's going to take a while for PP to come through. But if you really stick with it, you'll once you learn the AR, it stays forever. So yeah,
When
find a
you
rank one. Find a map you can rank one as well. That's a good goal to start off.
when you say auto, are you talking about autopilot?
I'm talking about the one where you tap and
It
you
aims for
tap
you.
and it aims for you. Yeah. If you
Okay.
wanna, if you find that like just do it as an example. Like, people, they always say like, oh, I can tap AR11, but I can't aim it. It's like so bullshit. It's like there's no way. Like, you're aiming an AR10 map the same speed you're aiming an AR11 map. Like, that difference is significant, but the difference in your tapping might differ very, and that's different. Some really good act players like would be able to go on auto mod and not skip a beat at all, but they wouldn't be able to aim. But most DT players, like and people that are going into A11, I just say, from what my experience and other people, it's a lot harder on the left hand, because a lot of the time you're tapping sliders and you're not tripling triples. Like, it's a lot of the left hand. It's not, people focus too much on the right, and then they play relaxed mod, and then like, shit, I can read A11. It's like, no, it's like You just play relax on A11. Like try auto now, and they just feed it. So yeah, it's really good.
So talking
Uh,
about, you can finish if you want.
oh, I was just gonna say like yeah, for my obsession to be able to play all 6-star DT maps and all 5-star DT maps was I was just obsessed with getting that country one or high DT ranking on the map, and that is what really got me good at other skill sets. It was just playing only DT, but I'm playing slow. I'm playing 180 BPM DT. I'm playing 300 BPM DT. I'm playing old map DT. That was where I developed because it's all the same game. I developed so many skills because DT is so, DT one trick gets thrown around all the time, but DT is so versatile. It's crazy. There's all these other different, styles that could be incorporated into DT, and you're playing the same game. So it's if you're a DT one trick, you best be playing everything DT if you want to actually translate your skills into other like tournaments, and it will happen quite easily because DT I think is the most intensive of all the skills. Like it really is. No mod's very broad in that genre as well. You can play on no mod A map and then no mod stream map. It's just the same thing with DT. Some DT maps have no burst. Some DT maps have a lot of burst. So yeah, just expand your horizon and make sure if you only like playing DT, play a lot of different style DT is my advice.
I want to switch gears a little bit to tapping technique and speed. So I'm curious if there's specific things that you feel like are better or worse when it comes to your tapping technique when you're really pushing your tapping speed.
Yeah, so for me, I don't know a lot of other people that do. I single tap. It was funny when I first started playing. I watched HVic and HVic and Cookies. I think single tap with their middle finger, and Rapper's single tap with his pointer finger. I used to single tap with the Cookiesy finger. He's the first player I watched. I was like, I'm gonna copy everything he does. So I was single tapping on my other finger, and then I watched Rappers, and then he's my favorite player now. He's single tapping on a different finger. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta change it now. So wait, that one's better. So I started, just like shit like that. Like, um, but no, so I was pretty lucky that I did spend quite a bit of time when I was new single tapping on one of my other fingers, and then I went to my pointer finger, which is now my main finger. But
Interesting.
I would always bounce. I call it like a bounce. I don't know how else to explain it other than when a note is under a slider, I will alt that note under the slider. Like I won't single tap the slider and then single tap that note under it with the same finger. I'll bounce off it to reset my. So like if it's imagine you've got a slider, a circle under it, and then a star jump pattern on a DT map. I'm gonna hit the slider on my main finger, and then that first note under that slider that leads into that jump section, I'm gonna alt that to reset my single tapping finger for this jump section that I'm about to single tap.
Oh,
So I
okay.
use that little I call it like a bounce. I bounce off the note to give my because it's really easy to single tap that 5 note or that star pattern after I bounce off the other finger. So I have this thing where like I kind of bounce off sliders if a note's stacked under it, or if a slider's stacked on another slider, I'll alt the slider. Um, but for building speed, I was lucky that yeah I didn't look at BPM too much, so I never factored myself. Now I definitely know where my limits are in BPM. But uh, how did I improve my tapping so much? It was awkward because I could never do anything longer than uh 5 note quints because a lot of the DT I just couldn't do streams. And that took a long time to get good at. It took, after I could pass save me, I was really like, yeah, if I can do the save me streams, some of these 6-star DT streams aren't actually anything. And I know I can tap fast enough because I can triple at 300 BPM. So what really helped me with learning streams on DT was like, okay, instead of it being a 13-note stream, let's just think of it as like 4 different triples. You know what I mean? And just like I can triple really fast, just keep tripling. You know what I mean? Like with my fingers, and that's kind of I was like, okay, you do a triple and then do another triple on the other finger, and it's like I broke down a stream into that to get my fingers to keep going down because I could never just keep going the same rhythm. Like I just never developed that stamina skill.
You mentioned earlier about core lag, where he would just have you play like a 160 BPM stream stuff, and like, what exactly was that about?
Yeah, so he would always like say, because I would always be like, I can't stream, I suck at streams. He'd be like, you do this, and it'd be the square stamina, 8 notes, 16 notes. You know that map.
Oh, yeah,
Just
yeah,
play
yeah.
this, like play this every day. And I did it every day. I did actually I did it every day for like a week, different BPMs, and I tell you right now, those maps work like that. If you really can't stream, play the 200 BPM or the 190 BPM practice maps that are there, and like those are really boring for me. And I don't. For me, I have to have fun to improve. But I know now that I don't have to have fun to improve. I can just improve. It just won't be fun. But for me, I had to have fun, so I couldn't do that. Um, but you can do it. You just got to stick to it and do those maps, and they really work. Like I don't know anyone who's done those stream practice maps and tells you that their streaming got worse off it. For me, it's just like I wanted a bit more of a dynamic than that. Like I just get a little too bored. But he would always say like, just do this and it will work. And I did do that, and then I got to a point where I was doing that in my own time to like either if I was warming up, see how my streams are feeling. I'd do that as a good indicator to see where I was at.
So what you're talking about, the burst stream practice maps, is mapped by someone named Nublet.
I think so, yeah. I'm not
Okay.
I'm not too certain on the
Yeah.
exact map, but it's yeah, there's 16 or 32 nodes. You could just type in stamina training on OSA Direct or the site, you'll get another copy paste version of the same type of map, which is non-stop streams. But that sort of thing, like also another thing, I came from Mania and I skill capped bad in Mania. Like once I hit a ceiling, it was like, oh, this game's no longer fun. Like everything is burning. My forearms are burning. Like there's a big skill cap in Mania where it's like you have the speed but you don't have the reading, and every map beyond a certain point is all reading. Like your speed can't carry you. Like whereas in standard it's not really like that. Like there's so many niche skill sets you can go into if you cap in another one. But what pissed me off the most was like I was so fast, and I could play Ocarina aside that 260 map 20 times in a row DT and not feel fatigued at all. And then Graham would be like, he'd be like, your stamina sucks. And I'm like, my stamina is amazing. I have the stamina to play. Like the stamina in standards nothing compared to the stamina in Mania. But then I realized stamina is two different things where it's like, have you got finger control stamina of just left, right, like ZX, 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 ZX at a certain BPM for a long period of time? And then I realized like I don't have the consistency for a long period of time. I can do it for ages. I just have my forearms strong. I built up a lot of stamina from Mania, but stamina in standard is different. Like what I'm really bad at is maintaining the same BPM for a long period of time. I could do it for 5, 7, 9 notes, but beyond that, I just start. My tapping is different. Like you can see it if you just press ZX in a live chat, like a Discord chat, as fast as you can go, see which key starts double tapping more, and you're like, oh, I'm pressing X twice before I press Z. I'm gonna focus a bit more on that other finger, and that was one of the things I used to do. Like little drills like that would help me improve that technique, that tapping technique.
So you would push single tap speed on the finger that felt slower, basically.
Yeah, well, for me, it was the thing that didn't go down. For me, a big issue I have is finger locking, and it's just because I don't tap the key down. Like I just don't tap it. I'm just tapping too light, and then I don't tap it. So I was yeah. So I just like look at what finger is messing up, and then now I'm focused a bit more on just making sure that finger goes down, and that really helped. But for increasing speed, the biggest tip I have is yeah, absolutely play a lot of DT. DT will get you. Right now, I think speed is like. I used to think I was fast because I could do 270 BPM, but like relative to what players are now, like I'm not. I was never fast. I was like faster than average, but speed players these days are like. I used to look at like Septon, Mech, Dummy. These players is like the fastest you can be. Oxycodone, but now you look and it's just like holy shit. Speed players now are something else.
Dang, I remember Mac. Wow, wait, Mac is ranked 20K now. That's crazy.
No way. Yeah, Mech and Woo. We had a really fast country in dummy Mech and Woo, and
Yeah, Woo. I remember
they were
Woo. Six eight two
yeah
one.
yeah unreal speed player. He used to play with the he had to change his fingers because of RSI or something, and he was still so fast. But talk about someone ahead of the time. That was someone way ahead of their time.
Dang, that's crazy. All right. Do you have any final bits of wisdom? I feel like there's been just concentrated juice in this interview.
Oh really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. Nah. what my biggest advice would be to people that want to get, like, if you're listening to this, then you're already doing the right thing because you're actively trying to improve. Don't focus too much on what you're bad at. A lot of the times reflect and look at what you've done so far, because the game is entirely mentality based. Like 100% of this game is your mental. You will, and if you are already starting your session in a position of I'm not good enough, or I suck, you've already lost. You need to start looking at it as a I'm better than this many people. I've like go watch your old replay. Like that feeling you get when you watch a good score, and that feeling you get when you do a good score, it pays off for all of the grind and all of the sadness and all of the feeling trash. That replay you're gonna get will be worth it. And you can sit there and watch it, and you just got to get addicted to the sensation of feeling good and not feeling bad. And if you like farming, do that. Like you have to just keep doing what you enjoy doing, and don't focus too much on what people say, because like I was laughed at, and I was called like the worst 20 player, like relative to my rank. Like I think on Apraxia's what did he put me? He put me like D tier in one of the Suiji um you Suiji or Konyo Cup where you pick teammates, or Suiji.
Oh
He
yeah,
put me
yeah.
like the worst tier of all the players. And in that same year, I made the OWC team. Um, so like, don't let someone tell you, I didn't take that as be like, oh, I'm trash, it can't be good. I took it as, oh, he thinks I'm trash, I'm gonna show him. Um, and it paid off. And yeah, I just can't stress enough how like the utmost confidence in yourself. Always find someone to compete with. Find friends. Like it's really easy to find like-minded people. If you're watching people, try take something from their game. Like see what, if you're gonna watch a stream, don't just, and you want to improve, don't just watch it to be entertained, but also watch it and see, like, try pick up some habits that that player is doing that are like, damn, I'm not doing that. I wonder why he's doing it, and start opening your perspective to more. Um, you know, those people are doing something for a reason. Um, and some closing words, I guess I just want to say that like players are so very good now. And it's hard to ever look back at myself and feel like I was good. Like I always feel like I thought I was good at the time, but now looking back at it, it's like how good was I really? Because you look back at the players 6 years ago and their top play like Aza, right? You look at like some of the stuff Aza was doing back in those days. It's like really cool, but it's like skill is relative to the moment, is what I'm trying to say. And um, you might be bad relative to other people now, but if you keep hustling, you keep improving, you'll be good like later. And you just look back at those times and be really proud. And yeah, if you're actively trying to improve, make this your main game. It has to just be your main game. You're a gamer, right? Like take the sacrifice to be good. That's what it truly is what it takes. Like ask anyone, they'll all say play more, but like the reality is they sacrifice something to play more, and you have to too. And if you find yourself stuck, like if you find yourself plateauing at a rank, every single player plateaus at a certain rank. You can't abandon ship, because you keep doing those 100 maps a day, or whatever certain amount of maps you like playing. You keep doing that every day, you will look back at, you will find one of those maps that you played, you will find it again, and you will shit on that score. And that is the best feeling. And that's why I got addicted to it. It was beating myself and beating other people. And I hope, for me it was a huge competitive thing. Like I just competed with so many people, but above all, compete against yourself, and you'll find results.
Dang, wise words. Well said. Thank you again, Amani, for taking the time to share your
All
wisdom
right.
with us.
Absolutely my pleasure. And it was such an I said it before, but like these interviews, like when I watched that Rafis one, and he was like talking, what did he say? He said he used to snipe people, he used to look at their top ranks and just snipe them. That's exactly what I was doing. And I didn't even know that he was doing it. When I found out he was doing it and I was doing it, I was like, oh shit. I was like, damn, that's the right thing to do. Like, so these interviews, they go a long way, Bib. So, you know, I really appreciate you for opening into that market and just absolutely killing it there. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, let's go. Thanks again for sharing all your wisdom with us, and thanks everyone for listening. We will see you all next time.
Thank you. Bye.